Welcome back to Season 3 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today, I have my esteemed co-host, Mr. Matthew Aguilar.
What up? What up? What up?
He's your comics guy, and your wrestling guy, and just the guy. We have Janelle Wheeler.
What's up, everybody?
Famed songbird / geek acolyte. And of course, Mr. Jim Viscardi is back with us, aka
hello, folks.
Producer Jim Viscardi. You see him on all the podcasts. He's here. He's on A Wild Pokemon Has Appeared. He's on Phase Zero.
You are on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's building a universe. He's the Kevin Feige of this whole thing. So he's getting his Infinity Stones together.
I'm the connective thread.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I don't know. Are you the Feige, Nick Fury? I don't know. You're just all wrapped into one, I guess. But we had to get out the experts today because we got a lot of real hard geeking we got to do today, guys. So, yeah, we're going to get into it. We got to talk about that Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer, of course. We got to get into some spoilers, talk about that WandaVision Quicksilver reveal and a crazy bunch of theories. We've gone full tinfoil hat over at Comicbook.com, and we got to talk about some of these things we're cooking up in terms of the theories as we come down this last stretch of WandaVision. Plus, we got to talk about that Justice League Snyder Cut Joker reveal. Janelle's got to go off as promised, so you guys got to stick around for that. There's a lot to say. And we got to talk about the latest books from Marvel in DC Future State. Plus, Matt and Jim are going to catch you up on what's been happening in the world of wrestling. So, like I said, we got a lot of hard geeking to do. So, strap in because this is the show to do it on. All right, guys, right at the top, let's talk about that Falcon and Winter Soldier trailer. It came out during the Super Bowl. It crushed it. Most views, I think, in 24 hours for any streaming series ever. So Marvel, once again, just redefining the game. What did you guys think? Jim, I know you have thoughts. Let's just start with you and get them out of the way. This will lead to the larger
grenade out of the way.
Let's just lead to the larger fight right now, Jim.
No, look, I really liked it. I mean, it's a totally different tone. It felt way more straightforward than obviously WandaVision. We understand why, and it's supposed to be a different show. I think this just goes to show the variety of what Disney and Marvel look to bring us as fans when it comes to Marvel television show content. Or streaming content, I guess. Like it feels weird to call it a television show, like you're watching it on your TV, but it's not a traditional television show. So I guess just streaming show. Who the hell knows? But I think it's interesting. I feel like WandaVision, though, we are really only like scratching the surface on what they are showing. I thought it was interesting to get more Zemo. They keep showing us the same shot of U.S. Agent, and obviously we got more Falcon and Bucky content, which was great, but it didn't really tell us what it was about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to point that out, and we have some questions. We're going to break down some kind of theories we have coming out of this trailer. Like, first of all, who is the villain of this? We still don't know. We've seen some scary people with their little hand face mask. They're running around. They're looking like they're up to trouble. We've seen Zemo carrying his purple mask. Everybody's got masks. We don't know what this all means. But they are doing a good job of kind of circling kind of the central thing. One of my big questions coming out of the trailer was, Zemo gets that whole speech about, I'm not going to leave my work unfinished. And somebody saying like heroes can't be allowed to rise. And like, who is that person? Who is he talking to? We have no clue who this person is and like what's going on.
Himself? And he sounds like a person who talks to himself.
Yeah,
it's a mirror. The camera pans and
he's going full William Dafoe from Spider-Man. But
he could be talking to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
No, there's somebody talking to him. Is the person saying like it's almost like he's being directed by somebody who's saying like this can't be allowed to stand, like heroes can't be allowed to like return a rise or whatever specifically they say. And Zemo then responds with, I'm not going to leave my work unfinished, which was breaking the Avengers and kind of psychologically mind screwing them. And then we see that, but we're all like, oh my God, the purple mask. And that's how Kevin Feige's getting
it. Looks so good. His look looks like it could be so easily terribly done. And it looks really good. Like that's a hard look to actually get. It's kind of like Taskmaster. Like it's a look that works in comics, but is more difficult to adapt to a film. They did a really good job, I thought. It's nice.
So, there's a lot. We also found out this is going to be the most kind of adult-oriented Marvel series so far.
Wow.
It's getting an adult rating for like a TV series, which is, that's pretty eye-opening. It means I feel like things could get pretty violent and kind of dark in this thing, just like WandaVision. And I'm kind of, again, I'm curious. I still, part of me just still believes this is all going to be like a backdoor pilot to something like the Thunderbolts.
I hope so. We didn't even get a shot of Batroc the Leaper in this, and we know he's in it, right?
Do we, Jim? Do we?
I guess I thought we did.
Okay, so like the thing that actually excited me most about this is just like I love this particular corner of the MCU, right? I love the Captain America corner. So like everything that kind of involves that, of course, the shield is in question. Falcon and Winter Soldier's dynamic is great. Loved that like Sharon Carter is going to be a much bigger part of this, and we're actually going to get fill-ins of like what's been going on with her, and like their whole dynamic is great. I saw in the chat like if we think Chris Evans will make an appearance, I mean, would it be cool? Sure, I think it would be really cool, but I don't need it. I'm kind of like one like I don't need RDJ to pop up. I think it would be fine if he did, but like as an AI or something. But I don't need it. I'm good with these new characters. I think the spotlight does them a bigger favor than it does shoehorning Evans in. But I'm really excited about this. This looks really good.
It feels like it could be something like a Secret Avengers kind of thing and feel, which was is that how we get Moon Knight into the Avengers? That's right. Moon Knight, member of the first Secret Avengers.
Nova was a member of that team. Just throw that out there too.
But that's an interesting thing, right? Where like I wonder if this. I mean, the tough part is that we know that this has to end up with Falcon truly taking the mantle of Captain America.
Freaking better.
Yeah, and so if that's the case, like The thing, and I posed a question to you guys. I feel like with some of the other movies or shows, based on what we've learned about them prior to release, we generally have a good idea on where to go as far as comics to read. And honestly, this one has me a little stumped. I don't necessarily know if it's going to potentially repurpose some old Cap stuff and just have it, Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of take the lead where what would have been Captain America in this part. So I'm curious to see if you guys have thoughts, if any, on that front.
I think that this one seems like they're pulling some of the most random threads of Captain America. And it's hard to do because whereas Captain America is a comic book, it's also one of the most obviously kind of politically tied comic books. Yep. And there's been so much that Captain America has done and evolved that has gone with how American society and politics have evolved, that you can't just always pull back those things. Like you can't do a Reagan era Captain America story like right now. It just doesn't make sense. So it's kind of like they're pulling pieces of that and then trying to fit them for the times. We've had some great comments from people saying the villains, the kind of mass team of villains, will be the Flag Smashers. But they've also have kind of shades of the Grapplers, which is like another kind of obscure team, which of course introduces characters like Songbird, who becomes a Thunderbolt. And there's all of that on the table. Like, yeah, there's a whole history of like U.S. Agent being 5 different people. Like,
that's just saying, like there's a lot. It's just, and that's the really interesting thing. Like I feel like when we maybe get a more official, I guess, story trailer, hopefully we get a bit more insight. But I mean,
but if you look at it, and because Kofi's right, like, and Jim, you're right too, because this is such a weird space of in between big Cap storylines in the comics. Obviously, Falcon has his whole series as being Captain America, but the same with Bucky, right? His whole thing of becoming Captain America, but we don't actually get to see a lot of the, like, there wasn't this kind of struggle in the comics, and like, well, you're gonna do it, or it was such a different storyline when these two got the shield. So they have a lot to mine, but not a lot specifically that you can point to one volume or one book and go, hey, go read this. You'll be in the loop. But I also actually think that's what's great about this particular thing, because while I enjoy getting to read the comics and having an overall understanding of like what's happening, even when there's a mystery tied to it, this is one of the ones where I'm actually just delighted that like I don't know all that, because they're pulling from such disparate threads to get to this. It's fun. It's actually fun to not understand, like, see everything coming. It's actually kind of nice.
I was going to say, as like a casual, obviously, I'm expanding my comic book knowledge daily, guys. I'm reading like 10 comics a day.
You really are.
But as a casual, person viewing this trailer, I wasn't really excited about Falcon Winter Soldier. In general, I was more pumped about Loki and WandaVision. And I mean, even I'm waiting for Black Widow to come out. Like, there's so many different things to get excited about. This is not up my alley normally. And it was the thing I was most kind of like impartial about. After this trailer, I was pumped. Like, I'm ready for it. Like, I am bouncing off the walls. Like, I feel this intrigue. I feel this, obvious tension between the two. And there was a question in the chat. This is supposed to be funny. Who is going to win the stare off? It was pretty clear. Winter Soldier, he won the stare off. Like, if you watched it,
look, he's a mind controlled Soviet operative. There's no way you're going to beat that in a stare down.
Yeah, and Sam is going to stop to flirt. Like, let's all be honest. So.
But I think one of the biggest things in that trailer too, that I think is going to be one of the biggest selling points, is the relationship, or like the banter between Falcon and Winters and Bucky, right? Like that pairing is just so good that, like, to see more of that is really something that I think where everyone can get excited about.
And the series can have them just like searching for a name in the phone book for 80 episodes. And people
really good.
That's the other thing too, right? This show is probably going to do more in pulling characters out and using characters as like your comic touch points than it will maybe necessarily particular arcs in general. So I think it's going to be, like I said, and that and like the Sharon Carter stuff. I swear to God, if they make her like a Mockingbird stand-in, we're going to have some problems. But I think that's just more the moment that we saw in the trailer than
they could.
Agent 13, she doesn't need any other code name. She has her code name. We're good. All right, Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Anybody had any parting thoughts while we get to the other big Marvel series that's on our slate right now?
Just really looking forward to it. I think they did a great job with the trailer. Obviously, we don't want spoilers in our trailers. We want to look forward to it. So I think they did a great job, and I'm pumped. And also, like, I was a little disappointed because I thought we were going to get more at the Super Bowl from Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to keep it pretty conservative with what they released. So, and then they got like the most trailer views for any streaming show ever.
I'm
so
glad.
There wasn't much
records.
competition.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, I know. So they're just going to put up the record and go home with that. I just going to say in kind of closing, I did love that Marvel's saving some money and giving Falcon those old Iron Man rig shots on the head while he's flying. I was like, save that money. 2020 was hard on everybody. All right. keep moving on. So, WandaVision. All right. We're going to get into WandaVision episode 5. Obviously, if Rich is in the booth, if you're listening, we're going to drop that spoiler thing if we still had the budget for it. Or like, there it is. WandaVision spoilers. Spoiler alert. All right. So, this week, obviously, things got real. I mean, this show keeps getting crazier by the episode. This week got super duper crazy. We got to see for the first time things going on inside the bubble of the sitcom while things are happening outside the bubble of the sitcom. We had an awesome confrontation between Wanda and Sword. I can't believe this was all just in one episode. I'm like getting discombobulated here.
Yeah.
But of course, the big thing we're going to start with was the ending twist, which saw Evan Peters show up as Quicksilver. Or no, I'm sorry. We don't know that yet.
That's true. We don't know.
Evan Peters show up and say he is Pietro at the end of an episode as like a sitcom special, long lost brother kind of deal.
Well, he doesn't even say that, right? Like Wanda says it as a Pietro,
and he actually turns his
he's
head.
Just like
he's
kind of
like
goes
curious.
To it.
Yeah.
I think there are so many layers to that reveal that I feel like asks more questions than anything else.
Go in. What do you like?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? I think the biggest thing for that is they made it very clear. Wanda made it clear, whether or not she chooses to do this or not, that death is permanent, right? And so she cannot bring back her Pietro. Now, we have found, right, like the mechanic of the door, right, that their front doorbell, etc., is anytime Wanda feels like she needs backup or needs a distraction, something comes running in through that door, right? And like whether it's Agnes or whoever, that's where it comes from. And so in that, like, it could just be I believe, like, she pulled in a Pietro. She couldn't bring back hers, but she brought back a Pietro. And look, Vision wouldn't necessarily, or I guess Vision would know, but but it kind of everyone else, I think it still kind of raises that question. But there's that moment right before the doorbell rings that Wanda, tries to make the claim that she's not doing this, right? And like,
but only that particular time.
Well, right.
She doesn't say,
and
I haven't been doing it.
Right.
She says that time. I didn't do that one.
Right. And so that's the question, right? Like, did Wanda bring this Pietro back? Is there another force that brought that Pietro back to either like help out or whatever? There's that bigger play where, right, the prevailing theory is, oh man, Mephisto. But I do want to answer the question because I've seen it in the chat and I've seen people taking it. Well, when Wanda said she can't bring people back from the dead, and everyone's like, well, she brought Vision back from the dead. Vision's not human. Vision is a robot.
True.
Or a synthezoid.
Yeah.
It's important.
So that definitely that I want to get into. Yeah.
Sits outside of bringing people back. And so that's how it can very easily be explained why that is happening. But again, like there's a lot at play there that it's a very cool moment. And I think everyone is kind of on eggshells on, is Marvel just going to throw this away, right? Because the implications are huge, right? Like, this is okay. The X-Men from the Fox films are here. Like, it like, is that door fully open? Like, and we know with Deadpool 3, coming and being in the MCU, that clearly it's got to have something, something funny is going to happen there. But it could also just be a total red herring bringing Pietro back.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope there's a reason.
Yeah, the next episodes will kind of determine what this really is. The Mephisto, or just whatever force is possibly kind of the overarching force that's controlling this, could send its own manifestation in as this long lost brother. And it's just kind of an Easter egg joke that it's Evan Peters. I want to talk about some other theories and things that were mentioned in the chat. Is this going to be the big cameo is one of the questions that people are asking, because we were teased that there was going to be, kind of comparing to the Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker, that we're going to get that level of cameo in this show. So is this I think this was talked about on Phase Zero. You guys kind of went in on whether Evan Peters constitutes a Luke Skywalker level cameo. Yeah. I love Evan Peters, but I think most people would agree that's maybe not it. We're hearing rumors that it could be one of the Spider-Men who shows up in WandaVision, which is interesting to think, because the next, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is coming next, but that feels like it's a different thread of Phase 4. It feels like this thread will continue into Spider-Man 3. And we're hearing that connective thread could be made in WandaVision by having Spider-Man show up in WandaVision. Matt, how do you feel about Spider-Man still not getting his own focus and possibly having to share the screen with WandaVision?
Look, I'm there. I'm with Matt on that. But go for it, Matt.
No, I hate it. I can't. That's like, the moment I heard Spider-Man, I was like, oh my god, stop shoehorning it into everything. Spider-Man has become like the inverse Wolverine. Like, Wolverine appeared in everything, and Spider-Man can't appear in anything by himself. It's like the poor dude.
Spider-Man's the MCU Wolverine. That's
a marquee character. Like, oh my god, blah. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I also don't necessarily think that adds anything to this, and that's having Evan Peters as Quicksilver. And you can say this both as Quicksilver as a character is not obviously like Luke Skywalker level of cameo, but for all the things you both talked about, is why it's important, right? It's not about really Quicksilver. It's about the fact that, Pietro, it's about the fact that this character is from the Fox side of things. It's such a big thing. It would have been bigger if things hadn't leaked ahead of time. But it's, and we also, by the way, I won't go into that, but we know that this is also not a one-off for him, right? We're going to get probably more of him, or at least allusions to him in the next episode. So that's a big deal. Maybe that's what she was talking about, which I can't necessarily argue that point, because that is a big deal.
And I think we got to believe too that Doctor Strange is going to show up at some point, and I don't think that's a major surprise.
How
Luke
dare
Skywalker
you?
kind of reveal. But I saw something get shared around on Twitter, and I forget where I saw it, but it was an interesting moment where we've already on the site have written about the kind of callback of Wanda pointing guns back on the people who are pointing guns on her, where that's a very Magneto move that we've seen kind of time and time again. But there is such a slight detail that I didn't catch the first time around, where she's holding her power and she kind of flips her hand as she does it. Magneto does the same. Michael Fassbender's Magneto does the same thing in one of the X-Men movies. And I believe, I can't remember which one it is, but I saw the GIF and I'm going to have to share or whatever. But it's like that. It's too similar to be a coincidence. And I think
I feel like
Pietro,
we say that a lot, Jim.
But I know, but
I think it's all been in the basement for a long time.
Michael Fassbender's Magneto, I believe, is a Luke Skywalker type reveal.
I don't know. If I believed every Reddit theory, I would be insane now. And half of it turns out to be not true at all. And it's just a coincidence of a thing. I don't know. If that's true, great. Because Magneto is honestly the one carryover that like not as like I need that Magneto, but having Magneto as a character come in is a big deal for me, right? Like that's a big deal as an X-Men fan, things like that, and what that could pave the way for. Having Fassbender as Magneto, that's I don't care. Whatever.
Whoa, that's
Like,
crazy talk. Magneto. All right,
fine.
We gotta stop, pay some bills, and when we come back, we are gonna get even further down this WandaVision rabbit hole because there are more theories that we have got to talk about. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Hot seat's on you, Matt. You didn't catch it. It was on
that
you.
Re-intro scared the living daylights out of me. I was reading and it was like, it just, startled me. Anyway.
Hopefully it didn't scare viewers.
You guys are just jumping in with us, Comic Book Nation. We are talking WandaVision theories after episode 5. We are doing full spoilers, just so you know. So we talked about this cameo and whether Evan Peters is the biggest thing. We've heard Spider-Man. Jim went down the rabbit hole saying we could see somebody like Fassbender's Magneto show up. I still am a believer like that there could be a parenting episode to this because they had the twin boys and it's a sitcom. You've had the
James Spader's Ultron doesn't show up. I'm throwing a freaking riot.
No, I've been on the Ultron train too, but not as Ultron, but of course as Spader
as James
showing
Spader.
up. Yeah.
Oh.
And there's also theories that Ultron could be at the heart of this because there are traces of him somehow left behind that kind of got into Vision, and now we're getting into Wanda and messing with her and all that stuff. So we're all over the place. Like Matt said, the Reddit theories are everywhere. So why not keep going with this? One thing I wanted to kind of pump are some of the theories we've come up with, and because we've all been in the basement for so long. So I've been going down the rabbit hole with Adam Barnhart, who did our wonderful interview with Harry Lennox last episode. One thing he noticed and kind of came up with that I thought was really good was noticing that WandaVision's commercials, we've all kind of been deciphering them about what kind of traumas Wanda has been through in her life. And like the Stark toaster is when she was trapped in the rubble with the Stark warhead. And, you know, the Hydra watches are obviously about her time being or Strucker watches or the experiment Strucker did on her. But as Adam has pointed out, these also not only double for the traumas of Wanda's life, but they each kind of also are metaphors for the powers of the Infinity Stones. So the first one is the smart toaster. And if you remember, the Mind Stone is, Tony says in Age of Ultron, the Mind Stone is essentially just a smart computer. It's a really advanced kind of computer. So this smart toaster that predicts, you know, not to burn toast and screw things up and do things perfectly is the Mind Stone. The second thing with the watches is obviously the Time Stone. The Hydra bath bar, it's this whole thing about transport yourself away and go to this other better place you can send yourself, and that's the Space Stone, obviously. And this last one with the gross spilled liquid, referencing Lagos and Captain America Civil War, is the kind of in change, you know, for when you've made a mistake and you want to clean it up, is obviously about changing reality, and it's the red liquid of the reality stone, the Aether. So this kind of led to me and Adam going down a full rabbit hole theory to say that there is something at work, I believe, about this being about the Infinity Stones in a kind of weird way, because they've started to up these references, right? Like Sword has that whole conversation about how Wanda could have so powerful. She's like one of the most powerful people in the MCU. She could have taken out Thanos if not for, you know, the snap and all and the Infinity Stones. And they mentioned that Carol is the other person who's that powerful. Before we get to that whole throwaway between, you know, Monica Rambeau and Carol, but she's also powered by an Infinity Stone. So was Vision. And so my theory is that there's somebody at work the Infinity Stones, Thanos, they could never be completely destroyed, but Thanos just basically atomized them so nobody can get them, right? They're gone. But the powers of them are still around. They've been imprinted on various people across the MCU in different ways, from Star-Lord to, different people who, if you were going to collect these powers, like these would be the people you would need to kind of mess with. Doctor Strange, same thing. So I think, and I'm not fully formed on this, but this is going to be about somebody coming along and trying to regain some of these powers of the Infinity Stone in some form, which Marvel does all the time. They change from eggs to cubes to this to stones to this, and
and I hate
now there's
it
a
every
pyramid,
time.
and now there's a pyramid and sword, So I think,
really hope not.
And I think that led me further down the rabbit hole to kind of Jim pointed out the great scene that when Wanda goes to get Vision's body is a direct reference to Vision Quest, which is his old 80s Avengers West Coast story.
I loved it.
Yeah, I love that story. But at the end of it, what you find out is that the government was taking Vision's body and trying to dismantle it and kind of learn from it and engineer from it. And but they were being manipulated by Immortus, who is the future version of Kang, who messes with Wanda and Vision's life in various ways, as you find out in stories like Avengers Forever, because Wanda is this thing called a Nexus being, which is, getting back to like the Hex and the powers. That she is a Nexus being who's this all-powerful kind of being in the Marvel universe, and her kids will be all-powerful beings too, and that's a threat to Immortus's kind of plans to master time, or a necessary component for him to master time. The stories go all over the place. The point is, he's the guy who's behind this. We know Kang is coming in to be a big bad in Phase 4. He's going to be an Ant-Man. There's hints he's already in Loki. His younger alter ego is the guy who forms the Young Avengers. So there's room, and what's been fascinating about this is he can be all over the place, right? He can be in literally like 3 to 4 places at once, depending on his persona. I think that what we're seeing is going to be revealed to be Immortus is messing with a lot of what's going on here and trying to mess with Wanda and trying to kind of utilize her power. And this is our first hint of him. But we won't put this together much later, and most people won't even know that Kang and Immortus are the same person until like much later in the phases. But that's where I am in the rabbit hole.
Wow.
Come down here with me.
Nope.
I'm still like picking apart the episode in general. Like, honestly, I'm still stuck on like Sparky. I'm so excited to find the comics that go along with each episode. Like, I immediately after watching this episode jumped over to the Vision comics, and I've been kind of like crash course reading through the entire Vision just to get to Sparky, like to try to figure out what Sparky's role is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be able to like now go in and be inspired to read the comics. I wish I had done it before the show, but if anybody is like, just a viewer, like they like to watch the shows and the movies, I highly suggest you jump into some of these comics too. And Matt, I was going to say, you should actually put up guides for what comics people should read.
I have been toying with the idea. By the way, I will just say that you should never I feel like it's supposed to work this way. You're supposed. This is actually what we've been wanting for years. Is that something based on a comic gains popularity and hits a little bit of mainstream, and it's supposed to make you want to go back to that material and explore that, and also just find all the other stuff. Like, that's how it's supposed to.
MCU.
So don't ever apologize.
Comic sales since 2008.
That's it. I mean, especially when the source material is so good.
It's so good.
Right. Like,
yeah, that's how it's
that's where
I've got a lot of messages, for all the, we go back and forth. I know on this show we are big Tom King defenders. I've got a lot of more messages in the last 5 days about where can I get more Tom King than I think I ever have. And I was just like, there you go. Get those sales, Tom King.
One of the references, even in the chat, Mayhem is saying, I hope White Vision comes out at the end of the show. Part of me thinks that Vision doesn't make it out of the show. And even that is making me go, okay, where do I find White Vision? I need to see what White Vision
So that's that West Coast Avengers story that we were talking about.
If you've never read late 80s, like 88 through the early 90s Avengers West Coast, those are some of the best Avengers stories ever.
Although what we have learned and kind of going back on this stuff, when especially with the introduction of Tommy and Billy, that John Byrne can't draw small children. It's freaking creepy as all hell.
I think Billy was so scary in the show, like the child Billy. He was so creepy. He had this evil look on his face, and I was like, "Is he going to be a bad guy or something?" Because he's just
but I think that like even then, like we didn't necessarily touch on them as much, but there's definitely something interesting going on there with with Wanda, being even at the very beginning of the episode where she can't get them to stop crying, where like it drops that first hint. Why won't you do what I say? And then them aging up seems to be out of her control, and
even
more
training
in
the
their
dog.
control.
It seems like it's in his head. He's telling the dog to sit instead of
so it's interesting, and that's where I think like even the Pietro thing, like we're really starting to. It's more apparent that there is something else at play here.
Well,
that is out of her control.
We're going to move on. But one thing I wanted to note, and I forgot earlier when Jim was talking, is the important key detail also here is that Monica Rambeau scene where she goes and shoots her clothing and says, this used to be my Kevlar. Wanda cannot create or destroy the things that are there. She can rearrange reality, which is a key kind of small detail, and but one to be remembered. And that goes back to your thing about Vision. Vision's not truly alive. So animating him and making him look in the scene where it drops and he's dead again, that might actually be his actual dead body walking around. But just Wanda can, screw around and rearrange it to be what she wants. And, of course he's alive in the sense that like all these people think have another identity, like Norm and all of these people. So that's a key detail to kind of remember. So when you have the twins and things like that, I hadn't
thought about that. That's a great one, Cody.
Yeah, she can't make these things. Like, so somebody else or something else has to be kind of affecting anything who just appears out of nowhere. That's how they figured out Geraldine was somebody different, because they knew she wasn't there, and like Wanda didn't make her appear, like she was somebody else. So, all right, now's the part I've been waiting for. Oh, I'm gonna sit back for a minute. Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. We got the full photo of Jared Leto's Joker. We got a connective photo that we had seen before of Ben Affleck's Batman, and some details on their scene together in the film. Janelle, go off. What did you think?
Oh my
now that you've
gosh.
seen the full Jared Leto's Joker as the one. If you don't know, Janelle Wheeler is a big stand for Jared Leto's Joker in Suicide Squad. How are you feeling about what we see?
Well, he's no longer hot. Like I had a big old crush on Jared Leto Joker, and
and that's the end of that segment.
He's so scary. Like I think
man.
for me personally, this is one of the scariest looking Jokers. I know some people. I've read tons of comments. People are kind of wanting the short hair Joker, but he's in Morbius, and like he loves his long hair. I don't know if that's written into his contract or if he just like if that was really the vision. But obviously we're hearing lots of different rumors. We're hearing that what about all of his tattoos? They're not there. I fully believe that he could have gone into another vat of toxic chemicals and his skin was wiped clean. It doesn't really matter. None of that really matters as long as you go in with an open mind.
I don't want to disappoint you, but that's exactly what Zack Snyder said. He was like, who cares?
Exactly. Well, and I'm glad he said that, because I hope people don't get too caught up in all of that and they can appreciate it. I know that I'm fighting for, his right to be Joker, but apparently there was a lot of really beautiful content that was shot with his previous version of the Joker, and we just never got to see it. And anyone who says he's not a great actor, like, come on, do your research, watch the other films. He's nominated, he's award winning. Like, he's not a terrible actor. He's a great actor. DC's lucky to have him. And I think he's going to do a beautiful job. I don't think we're going to get a lot. I don't think we're going to get like a whole Joker like storyline, but we're going to get a taste of what he had up his sleeve. And I'm really excited that he gets to show that. I love that he looks like a butcher. He looks like he just is about to cut someone up on a table. If you haven't seen it, it's a lot of very dark makeup around the eyes, very pale skin, a lot of dark makeup around his face to make the
like
smile.
He just finished eating a whole bunch of ribs.
Yes, totally. Yum. But he has the long, stringy hair. He's wearing gloves. It's so good. It's so good. And I'm just so excited to see what he's got. I really am.
I think there are some key things there are some key things to keep in mind and remember. I'm going to let Matt keep laughing. So in the story, I think Vanity Fair had the quotes that this was shot during the reshoots, and I would imagine there was limited time, and so that probably is why Jared's like, I'm keeping my hair if it's like I'm only there for a day of shooting kind of thing. But that like it's also something where I think Zack even said like Jared's Joker wasn't necessarily part of his Justice League movie plan, but it was part of his bigger plan to get Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared's Joker together in a room, because how could you not, right? Like that's
because of a storyline about killing Robin.
Just for larger context, this is a scene where Zack Snyder set it up. It's going to be Nightmare Batman is going across Nightmare Land, and he finds Joker, who escaped when Apocalypse happened and ran amok for a while, but I guess got bored of slaughtering, and so he may be butchering. So we might need to wait for a stack of bodies back there. So, but he gets bored and he's just kind of world weary and broken down. And this scene is kind of like almost like the interrogation scene between Ledger and Bale in The Dark Knight, where Joker kind of is analyzing Batman at the end of the world and like what he means and what he stood for and all that. So this was something he added purely as fan service because Leto
he had
and
the opportunity
Affleck, never got to connect. They were Justice League was supposed to help set up Ben Affleck's movie, which would have eventually connected with him and Leto. And they built that whole mythology with the dead Robin and the smash teeth and, all the stuff that, that also
he describes that sequence.
And it's just like, and so they just wanted to do something with it. And so we're going to get this, and I'm all for it.
I actually like this, by the way. I'm actually all for this whole, like when he talks a little bit in that interview about, we were going to see like Wayne Manor burned down, and we were going to see like how Robin died and all that stuff. That was like some of the more interesting parts of Batman versus Superman. So like, I'm actually glad we're actually going to get a little, whatever little bit remnant this is. I also actually really I'm more interested in the other look for Joker that is described, but we don't see.
Yeah.
Which is the, Kevlar vest with like all the police badges. It's all these it's described as like all these grimy police badges that he collects as trophies, and he's done this throughout the years. I'm like, I want to see that like look, and he also says it not as if he's going to be in that particular scene. He says like at other times or something along those lines to suggest that maybe we get glimpses of him in this other thing of like things he's done during that time, as opposed to him just being in that one sequence. Or maybe they just alternate between different versions of Joker in that sequence, but it would seem weird. So that's the part I'm actually more excited about than just, Ribs Joker.
Barbecue J. Oh man. So more and more like people have been asking in the comments. No, I don't think that no matter how, and I've been having this argument also when I was actually in between the Tom King arguments. It's funny how the show is mirroring my real life. So people have been asking me like, what if Snyder's cut fails and stuff? And I'm like, bro, this can't fail really. We're past the point of failure. Like this is going to be the biggest movie event we have to this point this year. In just a couple weeks. It's going to boost HBO Max subscriptions. There will be a boost, like guaranteed. And even if people hate it, like what does HBO Max lose? They're going to rope in more people, continue to push this campaign where they're having the exclusive, big release movies, and it's going to be all right for them. But the Snyder cut, let's just be clear. Like, no, I don't think no matter how on the other side of that, how successful this is, quote unquote, they've made it clear that this is a cul-de-sac, which is a nice way of saying we're doing this just so everybody stops complaining and we have closure, and that's what this is. And I think that's what we all have to take it as. And that seems to be the mindset Snyder has and why he's like including scenes like this Batman Joker scene. It's not going to go anywhere. We're not going to see Ben Affleck and Jared Leto's Joker play out a larger Batman movie. But hey, here's a nice thing for what could have been, and I think that's how you kind of got to really go into this to appreciate it. So, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm very excited. I love it. Give him his own movie.
I was waiting for that.
Well, to be fair,
like it was building.
To be fair, that was my last question. Does Leto deserve a better Joker story, like a Joker movie attempt, than what Suicide Squad was?
Yes, but not his own.
I just don't think I think we're past that. Ship has sailed, and it is what it's going to be at this point.
It all ends in the cul-de-sac of the Snyder Cut.
That's
All
right.
We do have a question in the chat. Alex is asking, any chance of Justice League 2 and 3 on HBO Max if Snyder Cut will succeed?
No, that's what I was just like. Yeah, that's just part of what I was just answering. Like, no, this is your part 1, 2, 3, and 4. You get 4
and
parts.
It's long. It feels like that, right?
It's gonna be 4 parts, and that's gonna be it. And when they say a cul-de-sac, like I said, that's a nice way of saying dead end. This is just the end. You know,
4 parts of my life I'm never gonna get back.
Oh, stop! Moving on.
Jeez.
Why don't you be happy?
I'm not looking forward to this.
Why don't you be a little happier and talk about this week's books?
You know what? I will. Thank you very much. Yes, I will. So we're gonna talk comics. It's also split into 4 parts, ironically, but we did not plan that out. So we're actually gonna talk. You know what? We're in the DC universe. Let's talk future state. So starting off with Dark Detective number 3. This, of course, is the story that focuses on Bruce Wayne and what he's been doing since like not being Batman and supposedly being shot by the magistrate. And we finally, by the way, spoilers coming for these comics. So I don't know if we need a fancy graphic again, but spoiler warning, you have been warned. So we actually get the long-awaited meeting of Bruce and Tim. And it was kind of not what I expected that to be. It was a very, I'll say, interesting meetup, but that's not a bad thing. It was not what I expected. So
underwhelming.
Janelle, what did you think? Right.
Okay. Well, I thought that the meetup was underwhelming, but I still loved the book.
I'm on the opposite. I loved it. I think it's the first time. I think we're kind of downplaying the significance that this is like the first time Batman's actually confronted somebody else being Batman, who he doesn't directly control, but knows is not evil. Like, it's not evil Batman.
Yeah.
Right?
He's just like, be careful.
Yeah.
Bye.
I love that part. Okay, that part I love. The part where he's like, if you like, I forget exactly what he says, but he essentially is like, I invented that line. Like, I tell people in a very scowling voice what to do. You don't get to do that to me, which I love. Like, that part I love. I agree with, it's weird. I'm in the middle. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. It was just not what I expected. But
I'm also just talking about that part because the book as a whole was great. Like, I loved the way that he kind of talked us through the entire process with his thoughts. I thought they did a great job of laying out the story in that way and not getting sometimes with all of the like inner thought monologue stuff, I get kind of like, okay, this is wordy, this is dragging on, like this is too much. I actually really enjoyed it. And I'm very curious to see like the cliffhanger of what is going to happen next is huge. Like, I am chomping at the bit to figure out where the story goes from here, because they did leave us on a really big moment where he's been found out. I hate spoiling.
No, we warned. I know some will get mad still, but not my problem. I told you. So I do love too, like the whole dynamic with like the older man he's living with, and like
I love him.
We were just talking about Reddit theories, right? And just like we went down these rabbit holes, and this dude is like taking that to a whole other degree, and he's right. Like, he ends up being completely right. Like, he hears something, but he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
And like that whole thing is really interesting. So yeah, I mean, I thought this was I think they've done a really good job in this particular book of teasing all these little breadcrumbs of like what exactly happened to Bruce. You know, we still don't really know like how they found out he was Bruce Wayne. Like, that's still kind of being teased along the way. So like there's some really interesting breadcrumbs, and then we get Dan Moore art on Batman, which I'm always a fan of.
Yeah. I honestly want the Dark Detective stuff to become the regular continuity of Batman right now. I really I stump for this really hard. I really enjoy it. It's the most interesting Bruce Wayne has been in like years to me. I love this kind of noir, like actual noir detective thing he has going. I love his kind of basic Bruiser Batman thing. I love the odd, perfect stranger, not perfect strangers, that's a foreign thing, but like the kind of odd couple pairing of him and this conspiracy theory nut.
Yeah, it's great.
Who makes you realize that like just how close Bruce is to being a nut himself, like, because that's why they get along so well, is that guy's like be doing nutty stuff while he's in the basement, like taking apart drones and doing crazy stuff. And so, yeah, this book is really good. And like I said, I liked the meeting with the other Batman because it was the first time that I've seen Batman have to accept that there is another Batman operating, and it's not him, but it's not a bad thing. Like, it's not an evil Batman he has to stop. And so that was pretty good. And I thought they did a good job of just breaking that out as how Bruce Wayne would deal with that.
Agreed. I think it's really good. Yeah. And then, of course, let's move over to Marvel. We're going to be fair. We're going to spread this out. I know we've been loving King in Black here. So, of course, we were talking about Thunderbolts earlier. This book is, this is very much the same type of flavor a lot of fans have loved from Thunderbolts in the past. What did you guys think? Janelle, did you catch up on the first issue too?
Oh, yeah. I'm going all in. I had to reread
This is probably my favorite King in Black tie-in.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really good in a way that just all the other tie-ins feel kind of obligatory in a way that, like, oh yeah, you're gonna have your Captain America tie-in or whatever, and I don't know as if I care about like those main characters as much in their tie-ins than I do with like what else is kind of going on in the background while all of this is going on. To me, that's always been the more interesting aspects of any of the tie-ins for these events. And look, Matt Rosenberg's he's got a knack for these kinds of characters that just works. And it's just and not to mention this book looks fantastic too. Like it's just an overall great package, and this is a book that I truly feel like gives you extra like about the world of King in Black that you don't necessarily get anywhere else. So that's, I really like this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was very well done. I read both, so I kind of played catch up, and they read so well together, like just going through. I know that I'm kind of spoiled in that regard. I get to read them all at once, but I'm really excited because I keep hearing you guys throwing out Thunderbolts for maybe possible Falcon Winter Soldier. And now I honestly, even if you don't have a background and you don't really know a lot about Thunderbolts, if you read this, like I get it. I get the whole gist of who they are, how they work together, where their origins come from. And just because of these books alone, I feel ready to see them if they do somehow slide into anywhere else in the MCU. I'm very pumped about it. And I think they did a great job. I love it. I love the King in Black story, though. I'm digging it.
I will say that, like, because I agree with Jim on the bigger things of, like, the big main pillars, like Thor having a King in Black tie-in when he's so heavily tied into the main series anyway, or Captain America, whatever. But I will say the ones that are on kind of the outside have all been stellar. All those times. Black Cat has been excellent, and that has had a major plot line in that. But again, it's not front and center. Same way with Marauders how that kind of yes, they're all obligatory because Marvel is going to slap that on everything. So they are like mandatory, like for the most part. But I think a lot of the kind of next tier down books have done a really good job, and not that's not in a derogatory way. That's just like not the like Thor, Captain America, Black Widow books have done a really good job of finding a niche to be able to explore and still adding to that King of Black story. Again, I think this is great. I also just love that like Rosenberg took characters like Star, who are kind of still trying to find their personalities and trying to find that thing that kind of puts them on a path to like cult favorite status. And like, he takes them, this, like, of course, like having Taskmaster in a book is interesting, but like this particular Taskmaster, like there's so much. I love the thing. I also just love that any one of these people can die. It's a very Suicide Squad. Thing. You don't feel like any of these people will probably make it out alive if one. At
the beginning you have a speech saying none of them survived.
Right. So. Yeah, exactly. And I love that. So
and that's like half the humor is like Kingpin totally picking these people who are expendable. I also love like the Robert Crumb style art for this demented group of characters. And
perfect fit.
especially without their masks in those scenes in the books. They're just it's so great.
Yeah, that part is awesome. And then of course, we'll stay on Marvel, and we tackled Batman Black and White not crazy long ago, and so Wolverine has its own anthology series, Wolverine Black, White, Red, and of course it's the same type of premise. It's all black and white art, but with the addition of red. And so we have 3 stories here. These stories kind of ranged from like some reached back into Logan's, kind of some of his like earlier history. Others were just complete ridiculousn's with Cosmic Ghost Rider. Like this was a weird mix, but that's kind of why I like these stories. So like, and this is mostly like Janelle, is there one of these that stuck out to you? Did you feel a little?
I liked the last one. The second one was very difficult to read digitally. I feel the artwork.
Oh, that's not your fault. That's just Chris. Chris always
hey.
does that to people.
Shalo's art is amazing. This was rough because he needs a color.
Yeah,
he needs the colors.
It was a little complicated.
Kofi.
I really, really, really loved the Among Us reference in the last book.
Yeah, that was good too.
It's great because you feel like you're watching like little Among Us guys like in a comic book. It's great. But the last one stood out for me. The first one was kind of just like, wait, what? Like I was very taken aback because the storyline is Wolverine with a child that he adopted that is his and a wife, and it's just a lot to take in. And it's like it was cool. It was just such a departure from what I had been reading.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go in really just like loving Wolverine and being open to the different stories. Like I would say take like a coffee break between each book because you need like a really good reset. But yeah, I really enjoyed them. I did. It's really hard to get super into a book without color. Though.
Kofi, is there one that stuck out to you? I'm guessing.
The only one I liked was the Magic one because that was like kind of funny. And the art was great. But this book made me realize I'm just really unhappy with 2 things lately. John Ridley writing comic books.
I knew. I had this feeling.
And these black and white issues. Like, oh my God. I can't. Like, I can't. I don't enjoy these. I didn't enjoy the Batman one. I didn't enjoy this one. They feel so self-indulgent. Like Ridley's one's like a freaking Rashomon Kurosawa film, like wrapped into a thing. It's so dense and layered. It's just like, none of this is fun for me.
But here's the thing though, right? Like it's what I appreciate about the format though. Yeah. Like I appreciate the anthology format and that like, look, at least we're not getting full series of this stuff. And so it provides us little tasters here that are like, oh, well, what if so-and-so, did this or did that. And again, like to me, the Wolverine one has been, hit or miss. There have definitely been some stories that I have liked more.
They're all hit or miss, I feel others. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
kind of what you get, right?
Yeah.
At least it wasn't like one shots of these things where you feel, you're paying $4.99, $3.99 for some of these books. And it was a whole issue. And you're like, well, no, thank you. I'll just, cause then it wouldn't get me to pick up the next issue. So like, I totally get it. But like the anthology format to me is incredibly important in also breaking in new talent and exposing folks to, up and coming creative talent in a way that you wouldn't necessarily get elsewhere for sure.
Yeah, agreed. I don't always enjoy, they really are hit and miss. And it's the same way with Batman Black and White and all of these. I still enjoy the format because you do. And that's actually why I've liked Future State's backup stories format with some of their bigger books, doing that 2 or 3 stories. Some of them are slogs, admittedly, but then you'll get a couple that just like, ooh, that sticks out. And hopefully people react to it. And that can get its own series. So that's always the hope. So that's comics this week. I've got a few other small little picks, but we can save those for the end of the show. Yeah,
let's speed wrap. We got to get out of here soon, but let's get an update on wrestling. Jim, Matt, take it away. What happened at the Royal Rumble? What's happening now? What do people have to look forward to? You got like 2 to 3 minutes.
Jim, what stuck out to you most about the Royal Rumble? Let's start there.
I mean, look, we got Edge on all 3 shows as a result, right? Got Edge on Raw, Edge on SmackDown, Edge on NXT. So that certainly was a thing. I don't know if I can buy Edge going to challenge for the NXT title, but I can also see them doing it in a way to try and like put someone over, maybe, or like I don't know. I honestly I don't know where they go with Edge that feels important enough. That's the thing. Like I love Edge, and I'm glad to see him back in some capacity. I just don't know where he goes. That to me, the more interesting story out of the Royal Rumble is obviously all the stuff surrounding Bianca Belair. Like she is a superstar, and so
don't take mine. All right, I've been I've been on that bandwagon for the beginning.
For sure. And
I'm amazed you didn't bring up Christian.
Oh, look. I can't get too excited with Christian. I marked out, and that's why I love the Royal Rumble when moments like that happen, like that, the unpredictability and the opportunity for those kinds of surprises and team ups and whatever are fantastic. I mean, like I don't think anyone would have expected Jillian to show up in the Royal Rumble, or Victoria in the Women's Royal Rumble. It's been a long time, but when you get those moments, that's what makes it so much fun. And so that's whatever. I thought the show overall was really, really good. As we are on the road to WrestleMania, I'm not sure where the road is going just yet.
I agree. Well, okay. So what I will say about Edge is, one, I've never been like, I like Edge. I'm not like diehard Edge, but
Edge is definitely a superstar of a certain era of people who have watched wrestling.
Very
in the same way that Cena was, in what Roman is going to be for another generation.
Agreed. So but what I do love is that when he came to NXT and that whole segment, that is how you put over other talent in another brand. And that is so completely different from what happened before with Charlotte. That's not Charlotte's fault. I'm just saying this is how you do it. That brings in attention to what's going to be a great match between Finn Balor and Pete Dunne on this weekend's Vengeance Day. So that's how you do it. That's how you add intrigue. And that's how you rub, essentially, without having to do a match. You don't have to do a match for that. But I feel like you've done enough by just hey, you're on the same level as me. That makes a difference. The Karrion Kross thing, the same thing afterwards. So I think that's how you do it. I will say Bianca Belair winning the Women's Royal Rumble match was the best match of the night.
It really was. It was
outclassed
really good.
Everything. And that ending is why, because you had 2 huge talents in Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, 2 talents who could have credibly won and who are both in need of pushes. And Belair just getting it just sealed the deal. I love that.
But I think that's also too, having the final 3 be Charlotte, Rhea, and Bianca as a passing of the torch kind of moment totally worked.
And Charlotte killed it. She kills that all the time. So I don't blame her for the other thing. I just blame creative for that. That was a bad decision. But this was how you do it. Bianca is a star, and I cannot wait for Sasha Bianca, because at some point she's going to have the title. And I'm excited for that. She's amazing.
I can't really, especially even if Becky returns, like Becky and Bianca, I think would be great. There's so many awesome pairings that I can't wait for on that front that are going to be a lot of fun.
All I want is that now. I will say, I feel like Ripley is going to Raw as much as I would love her to go to SmackDown. I feel like she's going to Raw because that Charlotte thing kind of writes itself. If she can stop being jealous of her dad, that whole weird thing. So that was Royal Rumble. Of course, we have Vengeance Day coming up, and then we already have a few matches for Elimination Chamber. So wrestling is not slowing down, but that is wrestling.
All right. Thank you guys on wrestling. That'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We put up new episodes every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, all live on Facebook, live on Twitch, live on YouTube now. Got to impress all my nieces and nephews. Yeah, we're live on YouTube now. If you miss a live show, don't worry about it. They'll all be replayed on each of these platforms. We also put up the article on Comicbook.com where you can either listen or watch the show and get links to all the other articles for the theories and all the stuff we are going to be talking about on the show. So make sure to check that out. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and just follow us at Comic Book Nation on Twitter. You can subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. You can tell your smart home device to play Comic Book Nation podcast, and it'll fire it right up for you. If you want to talk to any of us, you can see on the screen if you're watching here, or if you're listening, you can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
You can find me at Janelle Wheeler.
And I'm at Jim Viscardi.
If you're just hopping on the show with season 3, make sure to go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. Our 5-star reviewers are going to help us clean out our t-shirt closet of merch that's been sitting there like lost gold for a year when we finally get back in the office. And so, we're going to keep Jim busy for like another year sending
Jim's going to knit snow caps for all of you.
Yes. So be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That'll do it for this show. Make sure, because all of these discussions, a lot of them will probably filter over into this week's Phase 0, which you can catch on Friday with Jim, Brandon Davis, Jamie Girac. So when you watch this latest WandaVision, hop over there, talk about it with them. We'll be back next week on Wednesday to get deep geeky with you again on Comic Book Nation. See you then. Peace.
Deuces. That thumps.